Alright guys, welcome back to Liv's Bookshelf. I'm Liv, obviously, and today is a very, very special day because today is the day that we acknowledge all the single people and all the skinny couples that are about to eat so much chocolate they're going to look like the rest of us. Alright, so coming in at number 1 is The Darkest Minds. The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken is one of my favorite young adult trilogies to this day. Comparing it to The Hunger Games and Divergent, it way outshines both of those two very popular trilogies, and if you liked those two series, you will definitely like The Darkest Minds. The Darkest Minds follows a girl named Ruby, and I think she's 15 or 17 at the start of the series, and she is put into what is essentially a camp for kids that have special powers. Ruby has a very dangerous power in this story, and therefore a lot of people are going to be afraid of her. And she's afraid that she will not be able to form relationships with the people that she meets because of her power being a hindrance. The love story between her and her partner Liam is just phenomenal. It is a very teen-like romance, and it has a nice touch on the romantical aspect, but the couple was really introduced as friends before they were introduced as lovers, so it gave the reader a perfect little grace period to get to know everyone and to get to know the characters and fall in love with the characters before they fell in love with the relationship. The romance doesn't quite enter the story until about midway through the book. So by then we know Ruby, we know Liam, we know the gang, and we just absolutely love their relationship and them as a couple. And that is why it is number 5 on my romance list. Number 4, Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass is a series that will always have a special place in my heart, even though I'm not as big of a fan of it as I used to be, because of the first love story that was ever introduced in this series, which technically was introduced in the prequel, but since the prequel wasn't published until I think Heir of Fire or Queen of Shadows, I don't really count it as the first book in the series. I kind of count it as like 3.5. So while our main protagonist has many different relationships ranging from incredibly platonic to very, very romantic and adult relationships as well, we first see her and how she views love and how she views loyalty to a partner in the form of her once lover, Sam. Selena and Sam work well together because they sort of grew up together in an almost competitive brother-sister relationship, and they only became friends later and eventually lovers later. It's a very tragic love story because right off the bat we find out that Sam is dead from like almost page 1. And that Sam is never going to be in the main storyline, and yet in every flashback we see of him, we become more and more attached to him. Personally, I have become so attached to him that I still ship her with Sam over all of the other relationships. This is done so well that the reader falls in love with a character that never really appears in the story per se, except through Selena's memory. And just the writing is brilliantly done. This is the first book and probably the best book that I've ever read that creates a love story in the past that is so vivid, so romantic, and you just can't help but fall in love with it. Number 3, The Girl with All the Gifts. Miss Justinu and Sergeant. The two adults are opposed throughout most of the story, so it builds this kind of underlying subplot tension between the two of them. And while I won't spoil it and I won't say what happens or if anything happens at all, I will say that this is one of the most realistic depictions of adult love that I have seen in young adult and adult fiction from what I've read. It is very heartbreaking, it is heartwarming at times. When you were first introduced to both characters, they seem like their own little stereotypes. Miss Justinu is this soft, sweet teacher lady. She is the mother figure to our main protagonist, and she could not be kinder. Meanwhile, Sergeant is hard. He is horrible to Melanie, calling her an abortion and an abomination. He says that she is a monster and he hates her, seemingly. But as we get to know these characters more, we understand that there is more to Justinu than this sweet outer shell, and there is much more to Sargent than the hardness that he portrays. And they are much more alike than we initially believe. Number 2 is the Belgariad series, Polgra the Sorceress and Belgarath the Sorcerer, but for this one I'm going to be focusing specifically on Polgara and Durnek's characters. If I have any feminists watching, go read this book. You will absolutely love it. I have never read a more strong female character in all of my days. She is absolutely a role model whether you are a feminist or not. Then we have Durnek, who is the typical family guy. He is very loyal. He is an admirer of Paul or Polgara in the book series, but it isn't until some of the later books where we really start to see their relationship flourish. Again, we have a mother and father figure for our main protagonist, Garion, in the series, although Polgra the Sorceress, obviously Paul is the main protagonist, and we get to see more of her life story. Throughout the course of the series, we see both characters endure hardship to the maximum. The unspoken tension between the honest, hardworking Durnek and the legendary sorceress Polgra is enough to pull you in and keep you until the end. What makes this romance enticing is that it is very simple in which it is described. Simply put, a man and a woman fall in love. There's not really much more to it, and I don't think that there needs to be. Finally, I have saved the best for last, stemming from my all-time favorite fantasy sci-fi series. We have Marie and Elaine. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the hard copy book because I listened to the entire series on Audible, and I wish I had a discount code for you guys, but I don't at the moment, so maybe later. There are so many reasons to love this book. The world building, the characters, the plot twist. Oh my god, the plot twist. Wow. The characters stand out, but what really gets me is how hilarious the relationship between Marie and Elaine is. When the two of them are thrown together, the result is just a beautifully written tale of two people who not only fall in love, but learn to love. And I think that could be said for both characters. The story is about both of them equally, and they both go through their own sets of hardships. And I think my favorite part of the whole series was how they managed to help each other where they shouldn't have, or where it didn't really make sense to. Just out of the kindness of their hearts. Elaine learns what it's like to love, and he learns what it's like to love in a romantic way, and in a friend way, and a familial way, and he has to relearn all of these things from his childhood after experiencing severe loss. Meanwhile, Marie, who was pulled away from her family as a young child and pretty much left alone to fare for herself, pulled away from her friends, is faced with this young man who seems kind enough, but she doesn't want to trust. It is an incredibly written story. It is hilarious. It is the holy grail of love stories. Before you go, don't forget to hit the bell button down below and subscribe. I promise I'm not going to spam you. I rarely post on YouTube. And if you feel so inclined, follow me on Instagram. I'll probably follow you back. That's what I like to do. Thank you. Have an amazing Singles Awareness Day. Go eat chocolate, go fall in love, and maybe read a book or two.